Hello, Startup Vision. I'm Craig Hanson. I'm a general partner with Next World Capital. Great to be with you today.
Hello, Craig. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Next World is working with early stage companies, and you, Craig, have a passion for the go to market. You have a scientific, data driven approach to it. Can you share some of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to be with you. So I work with companies across the four pillars of go-to-market or GTM: sales, marketing, product, and finance. And the main idea is to take a lot of the insights and lessons learned from building some amazing companies over the years and apply that to give a best practices framework to these new startups for their early growth. So the key there is it's not like it's a standardized playbook for GTM. There's no one size fits all strategy that works. The right strategy in GTM is different for everyone. The key part is it's a framework to learn by which these startups can gather data, learn, draw insights, and continually evolve and refine their model over time. So oftentimes startups will start building their GTM based on where they get some initial traction or their original thesis idea. And that may be a perfect place to be, but a lot of times you find there's an even better GTM fit for them or strategic focus for them. And so this is the idea that helps them to continually learn, improve, seek, and explore and find some of those new great areas. So essentially, a lot of the work that I'm doing is taking a data-driven framework on top of those four areas of GTM to basically gather, microsegment, and learn from all the data and inputs that you're getting from customers and competitors and prospects and the general market feedback that help fill out your knowledge graph as a new company.
That's very interesting. And the other interesting thing I gathered from you is that you can always iterate and optimize your go-to-market strategy, even after a few years or when you have already have a recurrent revenue. Can you explain that? Because it's not, like a usual thing to think about, it's something very special.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. The best companies out there are continually learning. And in the early stage, your learning curve is tremendously steep. Every 6 months, you're learning dramatically more about your business than you knew before, which is why that stage is particularly exciting for me. So if you put in the right process and framework, you can really learn tremendous amounts of about your company. And then not only have you grown significantly that next 6, 12, 18 months after, you've learned a lot more about your business that give you the information and the insights you need for that next stair step of growth. So these are things like in product, how do I evaluate and test the product capabilities or modules that are most valuable and important for my type of customer prospect that I'm going after? Or how do I explore and test new capabilities that maybe the customer hasn't even thought of yet if I want to try to redefine the market or create something new? In sales, it's examples of things like how do I test, evaluate, and refine my thinking around the use cases that are most important for customers? How do I force rank the best and worst use cases so that I can still be a focused and agile operation? Similarly, how do I look at the discrete steps within my sales process to find those points of friction where I get blocked in deals or those points of acceleration? And as companies start to iterate through these things, they'll find that the difference between the continually improved use cases or customer focus, ICP, or even their sales process can result in incredibly different or better, say, higher average sales prices or faster sales cycles and close rates, better win rates against competitors. So that's the essence of that continual learning mindset.
So you have this expertise, as we can see, that brought great success to many startups in your portfolio. Can we speak about what successful companies do at an early stage and what to avoid?
Yeah, sure. So I think of two core things that we touched upon. The one is, instead of basing that initial GTM strategy and model from where you first started getting traction or the original hypothesis, that can be a good place to start, but overlay and put in place this more scientific GTM process that will continually allow you to learn and get the data points. And that's where you test, you refine the core, the 80% of your model that you keep getting better and better at. But you specifically also allocate roughly 20% of those efforts to explore the outer bounds and new territories and kind of game-changing mechanisms, because a lot of those will then result in those stair steps of growth later on. So that's one, put in place that more scientific process or framework early on. And the second is what we were just talking about. Realize that you actually never have your GTM strategy entirely figured out. It's continually evolving and changing. You know, as the company grows, the market evolves. New competitors emerge. You're able to move up market or down market as you expand. Uh, Certain things in your processes or focus areas that worked well at smaller scale start to break and fall apart at the bigger scale. So you're constantly reinventing yourself and thinking about these things. At the same time, entirely new opportunities will emerge. You'll find great market expansion capabilities or new product needs within the market that you can go fill. So you never really have it figured out. It's a continual learning process and mindset, and really this kind of continual design thinking approach to exploring and listening to what the market is telling you.
And can you give us a few concrete examples?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of examples in companies over time. And I'd say at the high level, that's from the early stage companies where you have iterative, very fast cycles. We'll often see companies either do significant pivots in the very early stage, or at least they're refining what that is. So one example is a lot of companies are finding a good model in product-led sales growth these days. And there's tremendous upside, velocity, and agility to that type of model. That works for some product categories, and it works for some customer size segments. In some areas, it can take companies all the way. In a lot of cases, those product-led companies are also finding that it's not as binary between product-led growth or sales-led growth. And so as they say expand and move up market and are talking to larger, more sophisticated customers, how do they start to weave in sales-led growth and traditional or more hands-on enterprise sales processes to fuel the product-led growth, but add that expertise and that higher touch element for the right customer segments? And we really find is it's an interesting spectrum of evolution as these companies evolve. And some will be more on the product-led growth end of the spectrum, and some will be more sales-led. But a lot of the best companies have some infusion of either on that spectrum.
So we understand the quantitative and metrics-based focused to help startups in their development and scaling. At an early stage, you're also very sensitive to a qualitative approach for teams and the product.
Yeah, absolutely. And those can be the most important elements at a lot of that early stage. It's not metrics driven from a financial sense at that point. Uh, it's the quantitative side. It can be very helpful as a data tool for insights. So in essence, that quantitative framework of gathering the type of data really can help drive and draw insights for the qualitative side. So that may be feedback from customers and prospects and people who bought your competitor's product, and a lot of qualitative assessments like that. That's still data that goes into the framework and can be really interesting to drive your strategy forward and keep getting better and better over time.
This is fascinating. Thank you so much, Craig, for your insight, deep insight into these go-to-market strategy. It's very, very fascinating. Thank you for participating today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed the conversation.